It's easier for women to have healthy breakdowns, whereas men have to be on the horse and they can't get knocked off the saddle, and it's all about power and control, and that's cultural.
So if a wife calls you and says that she's interested in going to couples counseling, but her husband refuses to go, what advice would you give her to help encourage her spouse to go?
Well, probably the first thing I'd suggest is that you tell him that she's going and he can come if he wants.
Okay.
If she doesn't figure that's going to work, I point out that if she does something, the system has to change.
My immediate reaction will be to suggest to her to have him call me on the phone. And, you can talk to me the way you're talking to me now, get a feeling for me, kind of get my number, And if that doesn't work, I'll suggest, well, why don't you two try a conference call? You two on speaker. Or I'll say, you have Skype?
Do you find it's easier for men or for women to make that first step into therapy?
I think it's easier for women. Because I think it's easier to use Brene Brown's terms, it's easier for women to have healthy breakdowns. Whereas men have to be on the horse and they can't get knocked off the saddle, and it's all about power and control. And that's cultural.
But I'm trying to think about my actual experience, and I've had at least as many men call as women. It might be because the women have put their foot down and said, you make the call, but I've had at least as many men call as women.
I would probably agree, and particularly I find some of the men will be calling and saying that they may have had other experiences with marital therapy, and they've now seeing someone who's a male, maybe with a male this would actually now work out for me, as being a reason why some of the men will then call me as a first call from the man instead of from the woman also.
But to be devil's advocate for a second, you guys all are therapists in major cities, So do you think that the answer would be the same if we were talking about small town South Dakota?
I think if the women would be more inclined,
Actually, I practiced before, though, in northeastern Indiana, so I was in a very rural setting. And I think there was still a balance there between men and women being the first one to call. Where the difference comes is the way that they vocalize what the problem is that they're coming in for.
What do you mean?
So the man might be calling and saying, you're one of the few places we can come. My wife's got some problems we got to work out. They still would be trying to make sure it's not being projected back on themselves.
Yes.
And so, but they might be the first person to call still. Yes. So that's where the dynamic might shift, even in a rural setting.
Yeah. So in a more rural setting, helping a male spouse get encouraged to come into therapy may be a more helpful, thing to offer to the public. So let's go around the room. What's one thing you wish you could say to clients that call you and are resistant to coming in, just to help ease them over the hump?
I tell them, well, listen, what you've been doing, whatever it is, however you came out to be, it's not working. Would you like to make an experiment? Would you like to try something new? What you have to lose? At least you know what's happening. It's not good. So if you try something new, it may just work.
Yeah.
It may do things better. So
Do you guys all say these things now?
I do, yeah.
Is there anything you wish you could say to clients that you don't because of you don't want to be too pushy?
Get your butt in here right now.
That's what I mean.
Sometimes I feel I try too hard.
You do?
Maybe I have to tone it down a little bit.
I would like to say, stop talking and just come in,
Yeah.
Where do you think this is going to be in 5 years' time? Or where do you think this is going to be 1 year time? But that's, again, very hard to say that in the dialogue with the individual who's calling you up that way.
There are so many factors that prevent people from making the decision to come to therapy, especially in couples. It's cultural, practices, traditions, and if your parents have a long-standing marriage, then you feel like a failure, and they don't want to let everybody know that they are in trouble and they need help. It's it's not good for them.
So at the same time that you say that, though, the couples really are probably already talking to other people about what's going on, even before they even think about coming to a therapist.
And going to websites.
They've gone to websites, books, they've done all of that stuff. They're talking to their neighbors, they're talking to their pastor, they're talking to all these other people.
Their best friends.
And are they really going to places that, and they do that, where they're really going to get good guidance to be able to guide them through what they're having? And so that's really one of the points to sort of talk about with them, is that you already have broken these sort of vows and cultural norms that you think of. And this is really just breaking it in a way that is going to actually be able to get you to where you can actually get help.
That's a great point. Yeah, I didn't think about it like that. It's true. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like for couples looking for therapy, whether it's one person in the marriage or an individual looking to get into services, I think the thing we can do is encourage them to go with their gut, pick up that 1,000-pound phone, make that phone call, and try it out and see what can happen.